For years, Tony Soprano has been on your TV. Now he might be on your computer. Find out what we're talking about. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Holiday Inn West on the Waterway in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on last week's Computer Security Conference, which was held here at the Holiday Inn West, and we're visiting with one of its invited speakers, Jon Kibler of Charleston. Good morning, Jon. Thanks so much for coming in this morning. I didn't highlight your position as the Chief Technical Officer for Advanced Systems Engineering Technology down there in Charleston.
Yes.
Very exciting. What was last week's conference like?
This was primarily an academic conference, so there was a lot of theoretical stuff, but there was a lot of good practical work. Joe Stewart had a very good paper on the research that SecureWorks, which is now based here in Myrtle Beach, is doing, and they're doing a lot of the most exciting work in the industry right now in terms of R&D. A lot of discussion of what should be in security curricula, and very good conference.
So it was very practical for a lot of the locals that traveled, came over the waterway or came down from Conway. A lot of youngsters were in. I saw a lot of college students out at the conference. There was some practical information for even them.
Yes, I mean, they get a feel for what's going on in the real world that they don't get in the classroom.
That's great. That's great. A little about yourself, Jon. Are you originally from the Palmetto State?
No, I've been in Charleston about 20 years. I came to Charleston on a Defense Department contract for Grumman Data Systems.
Okay.
And have been here ever since.
That's great. So you've been in the Low Country for 2 decades.
Yes.
What's it like living down there?
About like what I'm accustomed to. I mean, I've, except for about a year and a half, lived in the South all my life. So Charleston's a great city. A lot of things to do culturally. There's no way to be bored and live in Charleston.
Yes. Is it a pretty wired city? Is there a lot going on in the computer world down in the Low Country?
There's a lot going on. The biggest issue that we have in Charleston is like we see in a lot of places here in the state, that a lot of people simply are slow to adopt the technology, and particularly when it comes to security. They don't think security is an issue, even after they've been compromised time and time again. I've got some colleagues that do computer service type work, and they are always telling stories that, well, you know, I go to this company or that company, spend a half a day there, charge them a fortune to go in and clean up all the viruses and spyware and everything that they have on their computers. Yet for what they would charge for a couple of visits, they could have software in place that would block a lot of this, but the companies don't want to spend the money. So we see a lot of that. There are a few companies here in South Carolina that are doing outstanding work when it comes to security and kind of.
Really? What are some of those?
Would rather not say because.
Oh, okay, sure. That's fine. But
they don't want people to know what
that they're doing a good job.
That they're doing a good job, because you disclose that type of information and it only makes you a target.
Right. Oh, very good point. And that's a very important thing to think about, being laid out as a target.
Yes.
If you're doing your job right.
Yes. I mean, that's going to pose a challenge to somebody. Oh, okay, they think they're doing a good job. Let me
show them.
Let me show them exactly.
And that is oftentimes, I guess, what a lot of hackers or a lot of folks that are trying to get spyware or Trojans on your.
That used to be the case, where a lot of the hacking was for bragging rights. But in the last, particularly 2 to 3 years, say starting about 2004 and all, organized crime found that they could make a lot of money very safely, and often do it from countries where it isn't even against the law to do what they're doing. And it has just created a nightmare for security. In fact, it's gotten to the point that we used to have viruses and worms and all. We had antivirus software, and we later had spyware and all that was created, to track people's movements online.
Right.
And then we had various other ways of compromising computers, and a lot of that was developed, primarily for bragging rights or some of it for commercial purposes. But in the last few years, it has turned out to be that organized crime is now sponsoring the development of much of this software to the point that we're calling it crimeware.
Crimeware. When you're talking about organized crime, you mean...
I'm literally talking organized crime, the Russian mob, East European gangs, traditional organized crime.
Right.
And we're even seeing some street gangs, particularly on the West Coast, to get involved where they're doing smash and grabs of computers, say in doctor's offices or insurance companies where they know they're going to be able to find identity information on the computers that they can later sell.
They'll smash into an office and grab a computer where they know it'll have some critical information.
Yes, and just
wow.
Yeah, I mean it's down to the street gangs. Everybody has found that computer crime pays. I hate to say that, but I mean that's really what it boils down to.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Let's to put it in perspective.
Yeah, please.
For 2005, the FBI has estimated that organized crime stole $67.5 billion or thereabouts from U.S. companies and individuals. And if you compare that to the big, Fortune 500 companies, that is on par with the gross revenues from U.S. operations of some of the largest companies in the world. And if you look at the profitability of it, they are much more profitable than any legitimate business. If organized crime was quote a business and it was one group, they would be probably the most profitable business in the world strictly from their computer crime activities.
Wow, strictly from computer crime. So
Yeah.
they don't need to spend as much focus on drugs or prostitution or otherwise. They can really get it done, as you say, from countries where it may not even be illegal.
Yes, and then you even have countries where the people perpetrating the crimes, have tie-ins with the government, so the governments, don't have incentives to, actively go after the people. And you also have countries where a lot of it's occurring that the law enforcement doesn't have the technological resources to go after the people, or there isn't laws on the books that allow them to prosecute the people.
That is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you hear stories of FBI agents going over to some of the East European countries to pursue some of the high-profile people and these crime gang members, and they tell about having to go out and buy printer paper so that they can print out evidence because the local law enforcement doesn't have the budget to buy paper for their printers.
You are kidding, Joe.
No.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
That impact for our own folks to be able to go over and try to fight this in other countries, something that's having a dramatic impact on American business and I'm sure even American law enforcement.
Yes, I mean, if you look at the FBI behind terrorism and counterintelligence, computer crime, and the related credit card fraud, identity theft, and other fallouts from high technology crime is the number 3 priority of FBI investigations.
That is tragic, John.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it has really, really become a nightmare. And spam, which initially started off as people's ways to mass market products, organized crime has found that it's an easy way of propagating all their crimeware. You still have people that will click on email attachments and do things like that. In fact, it's gotten sophisticated enough that some of the crimeware, you don't even have to click on the email attachment. If you're using, for example, Microsoft Outlook or Outlook Express, simply moving your cursor over the email to delete it is enough to infect your computer in some cases.
No. Well, how do you get it off then, John?
That's a real issue. Law enforcement, I don't care what agency you go to, they'll all tell you pretty much the same, that if you look at the computers that they seize in various raids, particularly if you have a computer that's clearly been compromised, that 1/3 of the computers they seize, there is not any software available anywhere that will detect some of the crimeware that's been installed on the computers.
There is not any software anywhere that could detect some of the crimeware that's been installed on these computers.
And the problem is that so many of the computers around the world have been compromised. If you look at the research, it can be basically proven that about 10% of all the computers worldwide at any one point in time are under the control of organized crime.
Oh, come on now, John. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want to say that again?
Yeah, at minimum, 10% of all the computers around the world on the internet are under the control of organized crime through what they call botnets and bot armies. And in the industry, the more realistic estimate is that it's probably closer to 30%.
30% of all computers worldwide would be under the control of organized crime.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like who would want to turn their computer on, John? Seriously,
it is almost.
I mean, I know you're laughing because it's so scary.
It has almost gotten to that point. In fact, we're seeing people that are actually stopping using their computer because the cost of keeping the computer up and running is very expensive. And you have issues such as, they compromise your computer, you don't know it. You're on a high-speed internet connection, cable TV or DSL, and they say, oh, this is a good pipe for us to use to send spam. It's a good pipe for us to set up an illicit website. I mean, just look at it from the legal aspects. If somebody has compromised your computer and is using it to distribute child pornography, what is your legal risk?
Yes, that's a very good point.
I mean, there are actual incidences of that having occurred. That's not a what if. That's the reality of the world.
Someone getting access of one of my computers and then distributing child porn, and then of course law enforcement officials coming after me because they were coming out of my computers.
Yeah, and how, particularly if you're a small company, and they've compromised your web server. Do you have the records that are necessary to prove that you did not know that all that stuff was on your system? Or let's just look at the recording industry. They compromise your computer to set up file sharing for movies or records, and you get served with lawsuit papers from the recording industry or the movie industry for digital rights management infringement. What's your liability there? How are you going to prove whether you did or did not know that this was going on?
Right. That is very. As I try to think about the impact for viewers, John, what they could do. What are some of the things they could do right now for viewers in the PD or here on the Strand or in southeastern North Carolina? What are some of the things they can do on a daily basis to try to protect themselves?
Well, you have to be vigilant. Start off with basically a clean computer, and before you ever put it on the internet, you have to properly patch it. And in fact, I will provide you a URL that you can put up on your website of a document that people can go out and get. If you don't have a computer now or you have an old computer, print it out and use it before you get a new computer, and it will tell you step by step how to take your brand new computer and be able to get all the latest patches before you ever ever put it actually live on the internet and use it for anything other than patching it.
And this is a nonprofit group that would help support.
The SANS Institute, which is a leading security research and training organization. Their chief technical officer produced this document a year or so ago, and it's kind of the gold standard on how to get it.
Please give that to us now, just for viewers, and of course we'll try to put it on the screen as well. Is it I think we've got it actually.
It's
sans.org /reading. Well, anyway,
I don't remember all of it.
It's a big one there, the white papers, windows. But if someone went to sans.org, they could probably get to it.
Look in the reading room, white papers, under Windows and under white papers, they could find it. It's called Windows XP Surviving the First Day.
Surviving the First Day.
Yes.
Okay, if they went to sans.org, went to the reading room, went to white papers, and went to Windows XP, Surviving the First Day.
And just, kind of, why is that important? Well, when you buy a new computer, it's typically been built, say, 6 months, prior to your buying it. Even if you buy it, from one of these online order houses, the computer is going to have an operating system load that's at least 6 months old, and during which time tons of very critical patches have been put out by Microsoft. And you have to be able to get these patches on your computer before it goes online. Otherwise, you risk getting infected. And how big is the risk? Well, You take an unpatched version of Windows, put it on the internet, and the average time before it's compromised is somewhere in the ballpark of 10 minutes.
Oh, come on.
Serious.
So when I just, go ahead.
You go out and buy a brand new computer, you take it home, you drop it on the internet, within 10 minutes you stand probably a 90% chance of that system being compromised.
How long will it take if someone went to sans.org, went into the reading room, looked at the white paper, and go through those steps? How long would it take an average user like myself or most of our viewers to do exactly what the SANS Institute is encouraging?
It depends on how fast your internet connection is, because a lot of it's hurry up and wait on the downloads. It could be anywhere from an hour to 2 or 3 hours.
Okay. For each computer.
For each computer.
Okay. But they could all be done simultaneously.
Well, if you have a large number of computers, and you can actually set up a patch server within an organization, and the patch server can push patches out the computers. So if you have a half dozen computers or more in a company, that's probably the approach to take.
Right.
Because you'll eat up a lot of network bandwidth just sucking down the same information time and time and time again that you could download once and then distribute it on your local network.
As long as all the computers are hooked together, as long as they are.
Yeah, as long as they're all networked together.
That's fascinating, John. You go through. Clearly, this is something that average computer users really need to be concerned about, much of what you're talking about.
Definitely. I mean, after you get them patched, that isn't all of it. A lot of the computers now come with antivirus software.
Okay.
So the antivirus software needs to be updated daily. And a lot of the commercial software will actually push patches to the antivirus software out. I'm aware of one vendor that pushes patches out up to 120 times a day.
120 different patches a day?
That's how frequent new malware is detected.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, and the risk really goes beyond your computers. Well, let's stay on the malware, because you really need to take care of the anti-malware. You have several vendors out there. You have the McAfee's and Symantec's and Resolve. Some of them, have free software. For the home user, they're all, just about equivalent. But you have to have current antivirus software. You have to make sure that it gets updated daily. You have to make sure that your patches automatically install, as they're available. And then you also anymore need anti-spyware software, because your antivirus software doesn't really cover all the stuff that you see out there. And you need to make sure that your Windows firewall is enabled, or there's, if you can afford a hardware firewall, that's even better, because it is really, really difficult, to keep out the bad stuff. And it isn't just computers where the issue is. Like cell phones, particularly the ones that are based on the Symbiont OS, there's been over 300 cell phone worms identified within the last couple years. And as we get more and more of the Bluetooth-enabled cell phones out there, it's going to be just as big an issue with cell phones.
Those Bluetooth-enabled cell phones?
The Bluetooth, and the ones that are Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled are even worse, because then you can infect computers, and computers can infect you as well.
That is terrible. It feels like an infection just hearing you talk, John. I feel infected now.
And the thing is too often we deploy technology for convenience with no thought whatsoever to security. A real good example is a lot of the high-end luxury vehicles now are coming out with Bluetooth.
Yeah, sure.
And we're actually seeing in Europe several Bluetooth automobile worms that will do all sorts of things to mess with the computers on your car. And it's just a matter of time before they start becoming even more prevalent. And, it's a safety issue. The computers on the car are, controlling the vehicle. What if the worm turns off your analog braking system or your stability system? Or even worse, slams on the brakes for you when you're doing, 70 miles an hour down the interstate. That bothers me, more than any of the computer stuff. That, we're deploying technologies that are known to be highly vulnerable in safety critical situations that stand the potential to put people's lives in danger.
Now, I'm sorry, I got distracted for a split second there. You just said something that's critical. You're talking about the Bluetooth in your vehicle being conflict. Would you mind just repeating that again? Talking about it impacting your braking system in the car.
Yeah. I mean, you have a computer-based worm,
right,
that can spread through Bluetooth. Well, the computer is controlling, all aspects of your car.
All aspects of your vehicle.
In fact, you have multiple computers in your car. You actually have networks in most modern cars that where the computers talk to each other. And although we haven't seen any out there today, I can guarantee you that within the next few years you're going to see worms spread by Bluetooth or other networking technologies that could potentially compromise the safety systems of cars.
That is very, very serious. In that instance, what could we do? What are some of the things that a consumer could do? You don't want to take away from the high-end vehicles just up front. I'm sure they're trying to figure out ways to make sure they can't be compromised. The very nice vehicles on the market, or even the low-end vehicals that, because of, as you said, convenience, they're trying to make this happen.
Exactly. People want the Bluetooth, to do the hands-free type stuff. And do you want convenience or do you want safety? I mean, that's the judgment that we need to make. And my opinion is it isn't worth the risk. Unlike Wi-Fi, there is some possibility of securing Bluetooth, but it isn't out there yet. You're looking in the near future, too, of having cell phones that you can actually put money into, go up to a vending machine, and transact with the vending machine, debiting money in your cell phone.
Right.
And there's already technology out that can steal all the contents of your cell phone, so there's no reason they just couldn't steal the money on your cell phone.
Oh, my God, John.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so exciting to be able to use your cell phone to handle transactions, but when you think about the practical side of that, about the same interaction that your cell phone would have with that machine to transact, to make the transaction, someone's just grabbing that information while you're making the transaction.
Yeah. And,
That's
eavesdropping,
terrible.
the little Bluetooth wireless headsets.
Right.
There's a lot of commercial devices anybody can go out on the internet and buy that will allow you to eavesdrop on people's conversations, download the phone book off of their, cell phone, or there's even software available out on the internet that anybody can download, set up on 2 or 3 laptops, and actually use to track the movements of people that have Bluetooth-enabled cell phones. In fact, it was demonstrated at a security conference a couple years ago where they didn't warn people that they were doing that, and they put up a slide at the end of the conference that showed, the various people walking through the various rooms of the conferences, who was in what conference session when, and kind of to, jab the point home, they were even able to say, and these people actually didn't turn off their cell phones and got telephone calls in the middle of presentations.
Oh, my God, John. This happened simultaneously. I mean, at that split second. I mean, they were literally...
and so if nothing else, you have a privacy, issue with Bluetooth.
Very serious issues. That's something we need to talk to Cully Carson, who'll be with us tomorrow from Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice. As a matter of fact, John, that makes me think, do you think you'd be able to come back? There's so many more important issues here on a Friday, possibly, to come back and be with us to continue going through some of these issues. These are have gigantic significance to all of our folks. What we need to do is go over some of the questions of, particularly with with the organized crime controlling so many computers worldwide, what our viewers can do about that, but also some of the other things that might worry you. Would you be willing to come back with us on Friday?
Definitely.
Great. John, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Critical Carolina People with Jon Kibler coming up next. We've been talking about daily updates for your computer, antivirus software, patches, and we're not talking about cigarettes, anything to do with tobacco. We're talking about serious stuff there that can really impact your computers. A lot of daily updates, antivirus software, other things you need to be thinking about it. We've been visiting with Jon Kibler today. We've invited him back to be with us on Friday. You need to get back with us on Friday morning at 7 o'clock to hear some practical aspects that you can be doing to try to protect your computers, try to protect your life. Come back and be with us on Friday.